Hello, gorgeous people. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Oh my goodness. You know what's so funny? It's just the story of my life. I thought yesterday was Wednesday. Today felt like Thursday. I was skipping an entire day in the week, but here we are. We're here. We're live. Happy Wednesday. How are you feeling? I'm really excited to chat with you guys today because we're going to talk about a subject that is highly, highly fascinating. And it's something I've been deep diving into even more. So, you guys are going to get a little bit of insight of some of my research and things that I do behind the scenes. So, today we're talking about manifesting and your nervous system. Now, how trendy is nervous system, right? Like we hear it all the time, but I'm going to say this, regardless of where you're at and regardless of what your snow globe is showing to you, the nervous system is fascinating, and especially fascinating in its connection to our magical energetic realm. So I am a huge, huge fan of okay, wait, let me think about how to say this. A lot of people separate science and energy, like science and the magic. They're like, there's science and then there's man. Like, we separate this magical world, the spiritual world, from like the actual world. And I am such a huge fan of finding the energetic undercurrent of seeing and how the magic works underneath that creates the manifested reality. And the nervous system is quite literally the connection in our beings. So we're going to talk about it. Oh, Michaela says, ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm very, very excited to talk about it. Before we dive in, we've got a couple of things, couple of to-dos. First and foremost, today's the final day to get your 60% off of Soulpreneur Coding. So if you've been eyeing that program and you want to come into it, I highly recommend you jump in today because it will never be 60% off again. This was a special relaunch price because I have not relaunched this in 4 years. But I have been reviewing this program and I'm dripping with excitement as I re-listen to it because there's so much goodness in there. There is so much that's just going to bring you right back to your power. It's going to remind you how you are the center. It's going to show you how the manifesting thing works, how you are the centered groundedness of everything that's happening. It's going to give you those key components of how to create your reality, leveraging universal law and shifting yourself. So, I'm going to actually talk to you guys a little bit about one of the lessons that's in there today because it's so, so juicy. But today's the last day. So, run, don't walk. Go and get your 60% off of that program. You will not regret it. You are going to come back to those modules over and over and over again. It's gold. It's literal gold. Okay. And then we have a full moon coming. Amen. We have a big full moon coming. Okay. I'm going to give you the little bits that I know about it. Again, practical astrologer over here, don't know everything, but here's what I do know. This full moon in Capricorn is happening in the first degree. Okay. Okay. So, what that means is that typically full moons are like a letting go energy. And this is a letting go energy too. However, this is like a new full moon. It has the energy of both. Because it's initiating Capricorn season, it happens right with the summer solstice. It is quite literally the momentum of a new moon, the momentum of a new beginning with the big ass energy of a full moon. This is so massive. So I want you to think about this in terms of like what are you letting go and what are you initiating with a full velocity of momentum? Like, this is a really big full moon. So wherever it's happening for you in your chart, you want to find that 1 degree of Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of business. Capricorn is the sign of structured things. It's ruled by Saturn. So think about it in terms of like what has been auto correcting in your life? What has good old Saturn been forcing you to get it right? This is a big energy around that. And this is about initiating a new cycle in that area of your life. So for me, just for context, I was born with Neptune in Capricorn, which essentially Neptune is the planet of spirituality. It's the planet of the illusion. So Neptune spiritual, Capricorn business, spiritual business. And this full moon is going to be conjuncting that energy for me in my chart. So you want to look at where this shows up for you because it's going to be a big, big energy. Okay. Hi, Jesse. Good morning. Say hello as you're jumping on, everybody. I'm so, so excited to talk with you guys today. So let's dive in. Today, we're talking about manifesting and your nervous system. You know, those subjects that just make your whole body like, or just, it's just who I am. I get so excited. Okay. So, your nervous system, to simplify it, you can think about it like your capacity. It's your capacity. It's your capacity to handle things. It's your capacity to adapt to change. It's your capacity to be available for more. It's your capacity to do things you've never done before. It's your capacity to navigate the unknown. It's your capacity to handle your emotions, your triggers. It's your capacity. Okay. So when you have a very small capacity, you're not really able to handle much. You're not able to handle sudden changes. You're not able to handle the big emotions you feel. You're not able to handle when life throws some crazy shit at you and it makes you want to die. When your nervous system is really, really tight, when it's constricted, when it doesn't have the capability to hold more. So the way that I've learned about this so far is you can think about your capacity like a cup, right? And if you have a cup that is a decent size, look, you can handle quite a bit of things happening in your life, right? You can handle when something suddenly comes out of nowhere and like throws you a little bit. You can handle an emotional trigger. You can handle different variables moving around. You can handle life changes when your capacity, the cup, is big enough to handle it. It's like you can fill it up halfway and you're like, I'm all right. I'm all right. So what happens in life is the capacity or the filling goes up and down all the time. And so when our capacities say, I didn't come prepared. Okay, picture this as a thimble. The crystal's a thimble. When your capacity is really teeny tiny and you have this much happening in your life, you want to talk about overwhelm. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to pour water on myself, but you see what I'm saying. Oh, it completely overwhelms your system. And then what happens is we go, I just need these things outside of me to stop. I need everything around me to change. I need it to be better. And you literally break down. We've all been there, right? Every one of us has been there. But understanding this education, now we can know what we need to do in order to handle this kind of stuff. Let's see. Michaela said, so should I check what planet was in Capricorn in my birth chart? Yeah. And then what that planet represents. Correct. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. And again, the time passages, time passages app is entirely free. You can put your information in there and it'll show you your chart. I love that app. I use it every day. Okay. So when your nervous system is very contracted, and your nervous system contracts from, it can happen from years of trauma. It can happen from our suppressed emotions never getting fully processed out. It can happen when we shut down because we haven't learned how to handle things that life has thrown at us. It's when it contracts. You're not in a position to be able to handle much of anything, much less trying to manifest something new, right? Because when you're in that state of being, you are quite literally in the survival state. So we've talked about this. If you've been in my world for more than a day, we talk about the survival frequency and the abundance frequency. Your nervous system is what is determining where you are. This is why I say I love this connection because we talk about the energy all the time. And it can, if we don't understand the process in which to be at this frequency or this frequency, it can feel like a willpower game, you know? And as we know, and you've heard me talk about 1,000 times, willpower ain't gonna cut it. Never will, never has. But we're taught that, right? We're taught just push through, get to the other side, and then it will all work in your favor. And what happens when your nervous system is already at capacity and you try to push further? What happens? Full on emotional breakdown. Full on, you're on the floor, face in the carpet, crying your eyes out. That's what happens when we try to push at a point when our nervous system is at complete capacity. It's not the way, is it? Not the way at all. So when you're pushing and you have to kind of look at like what is happening inside of me, because it can feel entirely overwhelming. We've all been here, by the way. Like, we've all been here. It can feel entirely overwhelming. The brain is on overdrive in the survival fear frequency. You literally cannot see outside of what's happening. So this is what is so fascinating about our bodies and our brains, this connection with the nervous system and how the energy operates. When you are in survival and fear because you're entirely overwhelmed, you quite literally do not have the capability to see beyond what is. Meaning, when somebody like a manifestation teacher comes along and they're like, just imagine your most beautiful self. I'm playing. But truly, when someone comes along and tells you to just feel gratitude or just imagine yourself there, think good thoughts, when you're in that survival, fear based scarcity state, you don't have the capability. There is no imagining beyond, there is no manifesting beyond what is. Does this make sense? Because you are in such a survival state, all of your capacity is going to just survive. And this is like, this is just the everything. Because when you're in that state of being, there is a panic to you. Again, we've all been there. There's a panic to you. There is it's short-sighted. It's like you literally don't have the capability to go, let me look out here of the possibilities of the future. You're right here. You're right here. You can't go any further. So when we try to manifest something that we want in that state of being, it falls short every time. You can think about it like your nervous system is the soil in which you're trying to plant your visions. We've had that metaphor before. Those of you who were on for the exactly how to manifest episode, highly recommend checking that out because that gives you the exact process of exactly how to manifest. But let's talk about the pre manifestation, which is all about the dirt, the soil in which you're planting the seed, which is you. So I'm going to give you a story to kind of help explain this. When last year, last year, I had a client who came into the spiritual coach training program. And before the program started, I had a conversation with her and I could just feel, I could feel her state of being. She was in panicked mode. She was in overwhelm. She was in survival. There was no room for her to take in the program. There was no room for her to take in the curriculum. And so I contacted her because, so little context for me, I feel people. I feel them almost to a fault. So much so that sometimes I can confuse it as if I don't know if it's them or me. It's been a practice in learning what is my energy and what is someone else's energy. So in this case, I could feel her and I could feel her overwhelm. I could feel her scarcity. I could feel her survivalness and what she was in. Now, for context, she's a mom of 3, right? So that's a lot already, and they're all little. And so she was in this state of just on that hamster wheel, just trying to like keep up with everything, trying to hustle it up, trying to make things happen, blah, 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 blah. How many of us can relate to this? And then what does our society say? Just push through. If you just push through, you're going to break free at some point. No. How long you been doing that? How long you been trying to do that? It doesn't work. So I had a conversation with her because I could feel that she was not in a position, she didn't have the capacity to take in the curriculum for the program. And so it was going to be futile trying to teach her how to do this energetic magic work and coach her own clients. It was going to be completely futile because she didn't have the space to take it in. So I suggested, what if we do a couple of private calls first to get you in a state where you can receive this program? And she was like, oh my God, yes, I need that. Yes, yes. So we did. It took 3 weeks. It completely reset her, completely transformed her being. And so at the end of the 3 weeks, she was ready. She was prepared. She had relaxed her system. She had come out of survival. She was stop hustling for her worth, trying to do everything all the time. And she was able to expand that capacity so that she could take in more. So when you're going through evolution, especially in like a case like this, where when you take a program like the spiritual coach training program, that is an identity evolution. You're literally learning how to start expanding your capacity to be able to guide transformations for other people. You're becoming a coach, you're becoming a mentor. That is a huge transition. You have to be able to relax in your capacity to be able to take that in for that transformation that's going to happen in you. So it's not just like, can I receive more? It's like, do you have the capacity for your own transformation? Right? So we got her into a state in just 3 weeks where she was able to take in the program and truly go through that transformation. And it was so cool to witness. Like, I mean, it gives me literal goosebumps because we kept throughout the program, I would just remind her, like, do you remember where we started? Do you remember at the very beginning the state of being that you were in? And look at you now. And she's like, oh my God, I know. It's just incredible. And so we have to prioritize our beings. Okay. So here's what I want you to know. If you are in a state where you keep thinking, if this outside of you would just be different, then you would be okay. That is a sure sign, a sure red flag. You need to prioritize your own energetic capacity. You've got to start prioritizing your being. You've got to relax because that feeling of like, if I can just get here, then it'll be okay. That is a sure sign that you are at full capacity with your nervous system and what you can handle. And it's not going to ever arrive you where you want to go. So I want you to stop trying to look out there. Stop trying to get somewhere because that's the trick of the ego. That's the illusion is like, if I just get here, then I can relax. But I would truly think about how long you've been in that state of being. It's a shitty strategy, right? We talk about the shitty strategy in multiple different programs, but the shitty strategy is essentially if I just do it better, if I just do it more, if I just do it harder, then it will work. But you've been running that strategy for 6 months, a year, 10 years. It doesn't work. It's a shitty strategy. You've got to come back into homeostasis. We've got to come back into the present moment because to try to continue to push is just going to burn you out further. And so the more that you do that, the less that you have the capability to create. And creation, oh my God, creation is our God energy. That is what connects us to all that is. And if we are in survival, quite literally, you do not have the capability to create. You don't. You only have the capability to survive. And survival looks like just repeating the same small loop of reality because you're just coping. You feel me on that? And again, we've all been here. Okay. We've all been in that state of being. So no shame. I always say to everybody here, no shame in the game because we've all been there. But the more you know, the more you apply, and then you can get out of it. So you've got to come back into right here, right now, and in the most polite way possible, you got to say, fuck everything else. I've got to prioritize me. I got to take care of me. Because before you take care of you, nothing else is possible. It's just not. You don't have the capacity to manifest anything new. You don't have the ability to push forward. It's going to break you down. You feel me on this? So you've got to start prioritizing you here and now. And the number one thing to do is you got to slow down. You got to slow down. And I don't just mean in movement. We can move fast while being slow internally. You got to slow down. Whatever you've been trying to push, you got to stop cold turkey. And I know that that's terrifying, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Has it worked yet? It hasn't worked yet. You got to try something different. You've got to do it differently. You got to slow down. You got to stop trying to push whatever it is that you've been trying to make happen. And you've got to start putting you at the forefront. Because as you heal you, and this is the magic, as you heal you, you are going to rise out of that survival frequency and you're going to come into an entirely different state of being where your whole nervous system is relaxed. And as you start to relax into you, you start to develop a trust with yourself. You start to develop that trust with life. We've all been there too. Most of us, maybe. I mean, that's actually a lot more rare than the freaking out survival thing. But you start to get yourself to a place where you're trusting what happens. And that's surrender mode, right? That transition from survival to surrender is the scariest part. But once you do that, once you like stop fighting so hard, because I know we're so trained, but like the fight is what's keeping you stuck. You got to let it go. You got to just and start prioritizing yourself. Now, simple things as well, like get enough sleep. Holy shit and everything. Like get enough sleep. Start doing the things that nourish your body. Start bringing joy back into your life. I call this adding the magic back in. I made a post about this the other day, and if you haven't, go read it. It said, if you've been prioritizing your productivity over your happiness, you need to read this. You've got to start adding the things that you love back into your day. Because when you're in that survival state, what happens is that you're so tunnel vision on the things that you think you need to do to force yourself into a new level to get where you need to be, because your mind is going, just get there and then everything will be okay. And you get tunnel vision and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing. And then you're stuck. So you've got to come out of that, right? Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Chris said, this is so helpful again today. I've spent my entire life in survival for so long. A lot of people have. So let me say this. Just because you've been in survival your entire life does not mean that you cannot come out of it very quickly. You really, really can. You really can, like miraculously. Erin said, hey girl, hey. Okay, so what if you go in and out of this feeling? Perfect question. You will go out in and out. You will go in and out. It is not about never being there. It's about how quickly do you return to truth? How quickly can you come back to the truth of things? Do you see what I'm saying? So we're always going to have moments because we're not perfect. And things like not getting enough sleep, not eating correctly, working too much past the capacity. I call it past the point of no return. Because I used to do it all the time. So for context, I'm a generator in human design. I have a shit ton of energy. But once I hit that point where it's like I'm done, nothing good is happening after that. And I used to push back past it all the time. And it was not good. It would put me in a state of survival. I would be so overly emotional and overwhelmed, hit my capacity. And then I'm crying to Robert. And he's like, you got to stop before you get to that point, you know? So I learned, but we're going to do it sometimes. It's not about never going there because that's how we learn. It's about how quickly can I come back into my, I keep wanting to say homeostasis. I think that's the right word, that grounded center point where it's like, I'm okay. I'm all right. Right. We also have habits. We have habits of overworking. We have habits of pushing past the point of what's good for us. We have habits of that old mentality where it's like, I got to hustle for my worth. And so just being around, having awareness around that, you're going to start to learn yourself. The main thing is about prioritizing yourself over everything, like over the to do list, over, I see your question, Heather. I'm going to go there, over the kids sometimes. And I know that's like a sticking point, but if you are completely at capacity, burnt out to the brim, your kids are not getting a good version of you. They're getting the traumatized version of you. Do you think that's good for them? No, that's not good for them. The only time I've ever snapped on the kids is when I have been at complete capacity. I wasn't taking care of myself. There's a couple of times I was on the verge of getting sick. There was one time in particular, I remember I lost it on Willa and I felt so bad afterwards. And then the next day I found out I had COVID. So, like, things are going to happen. Okay, let's answer some of these questions. Okay, Aaron said, yep, that's where I'm at. Yeah. Yeah. So you want to come back to center. Come back to center. All the busy, 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 all the voice in your head that says, if you don't do this, then you need, like, understand what that voice is saying. That voice is that voice of the ego. And it's basically saying, like, if you don't do this, you're a failure. If you don't do this, then your whole world's going to fall apart. If you don't do this, everyone's going to hate you. You've got to reject that because it's not truth. But if you listen to it and it leads you, ego always leads you in a loop. Survival, the domain of the ego. You feel me? You have to reject it. And I know that that's like taboo in the personal development world, but it's not rejecting yourself. It's rejecting that voice. Going to Monday, reject the program that has told you you have to hustle for your worth. It is a non-truth, right? Okay. Okay, let's go. I think Desi asked the next question and then, oh, she just made a comment. I feel so much old energy coming through with this life change. Is that good or bad? I don't know. I know it's old energy and ready to be healed, but phew, it's been heavy. Just let it pass. Just let it pass. Like, just let it pass. Because, like, when we're shedding old stuff, it can feel like a lot. Just like imagine you're like a pipeline. Just let it go. Just let it pass. Let it shed through because that's probably happening because you need that. So life will instigate things for us that we need to process that we were not proactively processing on our own. That makes sense. That's the perfect way to say that. Life will instigate challenges, circumstances, things we go through in order to get you to process things you are not proactively processing. So embrace it. And again, you don't need to do anything with it. When you're just feeling a lot, just let yourself feel a lot. Don't try to fix it because, again, that fixing is the domain of the ego. It's going to keep you in survival. Just allow it. Just have yourself a little cry sesh, if you need to, like, I've told you guys before, there was a season in my life I was crying every day. Every day. Was it exhausting? Absolutely. But now looking back on it, I can see how necessary it was. And I don't cry every day anymore. Praise. Okay, let's get to Heather's question. It's a great one. What about parenting when it seems like a break is impossible? Yes, I see what you're saying. Like, you can't take a break from the kids. Okay, so very real question. And it's not something that's going to be solved like with a light switch. So when you're at the point of breaking with kids, like, number one, kids are a lot. Okay. So the first and foremost is like, there's nothing wrong with you. Kids are a lot. They're a lot. Think about it like when we're adults, we have developed, whether it's healthy or not, some of us have healthy ones, some of us don't, but we've developed a way to contain ourselves where we don't emotion throw up on people, for the most part. Kids don't have that barrier. So they're like, if you can imagine their auric field, Their auric field is like 10 feet in all directions. So when they're around you, you're feeling everything they're feeling, and it can be entirely overwhelming, especially if you're a sensitive being and you can feel people, right? Entirely overwhelming. We have our youngest airs towards anxiety. Okay. And every time I'm around her, I'm just like I feel her, you know? So one of the things that I have learned to do, and this is why I say it's not a light switch moment, but it is, you will get there, I promise. One of the things I've learned to do is, one, you've got to develop a lifestyle where you're prioritizing your own energy. And that takes it's a shift in the way that you do life. Like it's a shift in the prioritization of you. I'm gonna give you a Cliff's Notes, Heather, but there's a lot there. Okay, so that's number one. We're gonna talk about it in a second. In doing that, when you prioritize your own energy, it is like it's like if you are a light bulb and you only had it halfway screwed in, you are only operating with maybe half of your power, half of your strength of energy. When you start prioritizing yourself, it's like screwing the light bulb all the way in. All of a sudden, you're like, you can handle more. That's what prioritizing yourself does. Now, also, you become the stronger energy in the room. So when you're at capacity with your nervous system and your energy, you're not the strongest energy in the room, right? You kids are definitely beating you. They're winning in terms of stronger energy, right? So you want to prioritize yourself to develop that stronger energy because you want your energy to be the influence. You want to be the dominant energy in the room just by existing. And when you are that way, then they mold to you rather than you molding and crying on the floor. No, rather than you being pushed around by their energy. So that's number one. Number two, when you're in that moment of the like, I'm gonna lose it, like I'm gonna lose it on them, breathing is your best friend. Breathing is your best friend. And it's a practice. I mean, it truly is a practice, but this is why prioritizing yourself first, like if you can get up a little bit earlier before the kids get up and just have 10 minutes to yourself, like just 10 minutes of like meditation, depending on how old the kids are, start communicating with them what you need, like communicate, like I'm going to go and I'm going to be in my bedroom for like 15 minutes. I just need a moment to myself. Like communicate what you need to them. Um, because kids understand. I mean, like when they're little, obviously they need a lot. But if you start that conversation young, like I came into the girls' lives when they were 5 and 6. I always told them, like, I gotta go. I gotta go be by myself. I'll be back. Right. I would let them know. So prioritizing yourself helps you to begin strengthening that energy. But if in the moment you hit that capacity point, which we all do sometimes, we've all been there, breathing is your best friend. When that comes up over you, where you feel like you're going to lose it, create space between the trigger and the reaction. Meditation helps you with this. Like consistent meditation helps you with this. It helps you to create space between you and your emotions. Space. So in the moment, you just deep in, hold, and let go. 3 times before you say anything to your children. Because breathing relaxes the nervous system. It tells the nervous system there's no threat. Because you can't do deep breathing if you're being chased by a lion. You know what I mean? Like we hear it all the time, but this is the programming we're working with. We're working with like caveman like programming. So when you take those 3 deep breaths, the cortisol in your body drops and you don't hit that stress capacity like that. You bring it back down, you create space. And then from there, you have the capability to respond in a way that's not going to like cause trauma to the kids. You feel me on that? And then it's about you've got to do a lifestyle change. So there's a lot here. We could do a whole program on this, and you guys probably can feel it coming. There's gonna be a whole program on this. I'm gonna study it some more so I can get the full everything that I want to give you guys. But communication with your partner, communication with your kids, and it's gonna sound weird, but communication with yourself is your best friend. Because a lot of times, what happens when us as women are at capacity and you have a partner in your life, a lot of times what happens is you're taking on the world because you think you're supposed to, because you think you should, because there's this deep seated like proving yourself energy, and you're not communicating to your partner what you need. You're not communicating like, I'm at my capacity today. I really need some space for me. Could you do this with the kids? Could you take the kids here? We're not communicating what's going on inside of us. Couple of different reasons for that. One could be like you have a shame based energy. Don't have time to get into that today. But essentially, shame based energy is like you think something's wrong with you. And so you don't talk about it with people. You don't tell people what's going on with you. You don't tell them what you need because you think something's wrong with you and you need to fix it. As you can imagine, it's a very unhealthy state of being. And the antidote to shame based energy is to talk about what's going on with you. Talk about what's going on with a trusted person. Don't talk about what's going on with you with a shit person, with a trusted person. And if you're not in a space where you can do it with your partner yet, that's when you really want to look into therapy or a coach or someone that can guide you to start coming out of that state of being, right? So communication is your best friend. I would argue for anybody who is at that full state of capacity with your nervous system, you're so contracted in, I would build a very strong case that you're not communicating in your life. You're not communicating what's going on. You're not communicating what you need. You feel me on that? Okay. So breathing is your best friend in the meantime, but it is a lifestyle switch that needs to happen that essentially is prioritize you. You got to prioritize you. Again, every time I've lost it on the kids, and there's only been maybe five, like I can count them on one hand, 5 times that I've lost my shit on the kids. It has always been when I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't get enough sleep. I was getting sick. I didn't eat properly for the day. I wasn't in my meditation routine, whatever. It's always been when I was not prioritizing myself. And this happens so much with women because as women, we're taught good mothers sacrifice themselves. Good mothers don't prioritize themselves. Good mothers put the kids above everything. And so what we end up having happen is we have moms who are raising their kids from their trauma cycle because they're in a pure survival state. And then you're just passing that coding on to your kids and it keeps repeating the cycle. The more you prioritize yourself, the better the human you are. And the better the human you are, the more you're going to be able to operate in your day to day with ease, with calm, with grace, with the capacity to listen to your kids' nonsense and not get overwhelmed with the ability to be present. I did a program last year called Presence, and it was all on having that capability to shift the priorities of your life. Because if you have so much going on in your life that you feel like you can't stop it for a second to turn and pay attention to what your kid has to say to you, like you're like, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for this. That's not a good place to be. It's not a good place to be, right? That's not what you actually want for your life. And your ego mind keeps telling you, if I just push this a little bit further, then I'll be able to relax and be present with my family. That's not what you want. It never arrives you there. So the more you prioritize your energy, the more that you start to really do that healing work and slow down to where you are your first priority, everyone in your life is going to get the best version of you. And when everyone in your life gets the best version of you, can you imagine life starts really opening up? and everyone wants to be around you, and you're magnetic and you're feeling good. You're in your feminine. You're like, I love who I am. You're not at that like capacity where you just hate everyone around you and you just want to lock yourself in a room and die. Extremes. Okay, we'll do the last question and then we'll wrap. Chris said, so what do you suggest when you are aware you're in survival, but you have to make money because you have overextended yourself financially? I get that feeling 100%. So you're not going to make money if you're trying to push making money. You're so welcome, Heather. Meaning, so say like you run a business, right? And you're like, but I just have to make this. I just have to make, I know the feeling. I just have to make this. I just have to make this money. It's not going to create the results you want anyway. And there's an illusion that the ego creates for you that if you slow down and prioritize yourself, that it's all going to fall apart. But it's not true. If you slow down and you prioritize yourself, that is actually the pathway to making all of the money. It's the pathway to the abundance frequency. So when you're in the survival frequency and you're trying to push making money in the survival frequency, it's just the same shit over and over and over again. And I could probably go out on a limb and say that's what's happened. You're just like, well, I got to push it. I got to push it. But I have to make the money. I have to make this. So I need to do things. I've got to do the things. I have to. You might get one sale, right? Like it doesn't really work. And it is the not enough. Everything that happens in this frequency down here is not enough, including your money. So there's an illusion that the ego pushes on you that says if you just push harder, then you're going to break free and then you can go to the abundance frequency. But like, let's just throw some logic on there. If you push harder in scarcity, it ends you up in abundance. Nope. Right? So when you slow down and you start prioritizing yourself, it's not that you stop doing your business, it's that you invert the energy. Where you've been pushing the energy of making money and your business, where it's like push, 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 and neglecting you, you flip that. You start nurturing you. You start prioritizing you. You get yourself out of survival and into abundance. And then everything that you do in the abundant state, because, so I want to say this, a lot of people think I'll make money and then I'll be in abundance. No, it doesn't work like that. Abundance is more than money, for one, but two, you are moving yourself to where the abundance flow is. We're so powerful, we can keep ourselves stuck in the illusion of lack. And we're doing it. We're the ones doing it. You feel me on that? So you've got to start prioritizing you, nurturing you, shift yourself into the abundant state, and then everything you do in the abundant state creates and receives abundance because you're where that energy is. Does that make sense? So this is what I'm saying, like the transition to surrender feels like death because to your ego it is. The ego is like, no, we have to. But it hasn't worked yet. So it can't be true. It can't be true. So it's going to feel like fear when you finally get to that point where you say, I'm not doing it like that anymore. I'm done. And you start prioritizing yourself, but the moment you do it, it's going to shift you in a totally different state of being and you're going to wonder why it took you so long to do this. I've been there. I know how that goes. Okay, my loves. I loved talking about this today. I'm a little ghoulish. I did have one more thing I wanted to talk about, but it's okay. Maybe we'll do it Friday. Thank you for being here live. Thank you for your questions. I love when you guys come on and throw your comments and your questions. I love it being like a conversation like this. Fridays we do Q&A. So if there's anything else that comes up for you after this episode or any past episode and you want to talk about it on Friday, submit your question to the morning show marleyansel.com/the morning show. The link is in my bio or it'll be in the show notes in YouTube. And if you want to come into Soulpreneur Coding, this is about getting out of that hustle mode, out of that focusing on circumstance and everything around you, and building that powerhouse version of yourself. So I highly, highly recommend coming into this program. It is a literal gold. As I've been reviewing it, I've just been like drooling because I'm like, how do I said to Robert last night, I was like, how do I convey to people how good this is? Like how much they need this. And he's like, he's like, you just say that. Like just be you. I'm like, okay. So come into that program. It's $444 right now. It is regularly 1,111. It is deeply discounted for this first pre-launch. It will launch again, but it will never be this low of a price again. So I highly recommend you coming into it. It's a phenomenal program. It's going to completely reset you. It's going to expand your way of thinking and being. It's going to relax that nervous system because you're going to stop trying to change everything outside of you, and you're going to start building that powerhouse that's within you. Everything that you need already exists. We just have to get ourselves in the state of being to where we can see it. That's part of module 3. I'm in it. I've been reviewing it and I love it. All right, loves, I love you so much. That link is in my bio if you're on Instagram, and if you're on YouTube, you can find it in the show notes below. I'll see you guys Friday. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye, guys. Goodbye, my loves.